Hi everybody. As promised, I wanted to make and post another video about my encounters, or at least one of them. I'm going to try to make different videos about different encounters. That way I can label each video and they're easy to reference and easy to find. These are so I'll just talk about one of them, and that way there's like several encounters that helped me wake up, I think, to the reality of what we're living in, even though I've been a Bible-believing Christian, and I believe what the Bible says, about demon possession and Jesus casting out demons totally. But I think when you've really encountered something like that personally, not just hearing other people's stories and things like that and accounts in the Bible, I think once you have really experienced something face to face like that, really significant, I think it really helps to wake you up. So this story I'm going to tell happened in 2013. It was like August, September. What started it all, I have some health issues. Some of them are like IBS and that kind of thing, digestive stuff, and so I wanted to do a cleanse and just to feel better overall because I've had some health problems in the past. So I think my sister had done the master cleanse, which includes organic lemons or limes, filtered water, cayenne pepper, and organic maple syrup. So it's kind of like a lemonade, and so it's like when you're, it's like a fast. So it's a drink, it's a fast. So it's a fasting cleanse. You're fasting and cleansing. And, it's like fasting is like a spiritual cleanse too. So I was doing like both, like a spiritual and physical cleanse. But I didn't really understand the full extent of the spiritual kind of cleansing or whatever, the power that a fast gives you. I didn't really know. I understand it better now, and I'll get into that. So, and then also just to explain part of the process of the fast, in the mornings you drink filtered water with a certain amount of Celtic sea salt, and that is the equal weight, if I get this right, the equal weight of like blood. So it doesn't create a gradient. So basically you don't pee out the water, the salt water you're drinking. It goes through your digestive system and cleans you out after you've been drinking this lemonade, which kind of loosens everything up and kind of cleans you out. It's like, that softens everything, and then you do the salt water and that flushes you out. And not to be gross, but that's the process. So, and it's a great health benefit. People talked about how my skin was glowing. I really want to do it again. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, just because I did it for 35 days. So anyway, but I just look up the Master Cleanse if you're interested in anything like that. But because I believe cleansing is important, especially with all the pollutants, and also fasting. So if that's, it's a good way to fast too, because I believe that it helps us spiritually, that we need to fast and pray, because that's how Jesus described an effective way to cast out demons was to fast and pray. That some spirits require that. It's in the Bible. Okay. So anyway, I did my 35-day fast. This was August, September of 2013. Then I stopped my fast. I was done. I was going to do 40, but I believe totally Satan attacked me on the 35th day, and I stopped, and I didn't understand what was happening at the time. Otherwise, I would have pushed through and done 40, because Jesus did 40 when he was tempted by Satan. So here I am. Okay, 35 days, did my first fast ever. And by the grace of God, I don't know how I did it. God gave me strength. That's the only thing I know. I'm playing with a paintbrush, just in case you want to know. I'm just playing with it. I don't know. So fiddling around. So I work as a home health aide, and I go into people's homes and take care of people primarily with spinal cord injuries, but people in wheelchairs, different scenarios, stroke or whatever, cerebral palsy. So after my fast ended, and when I was reading the book about the fast, it said the fast cleanse. It said that you would have some spiritual experiences. Well, and I went through my 35 days, and I was like, I didn't have anything, not feeling anything, didn't have any experiences. I don't know. Okay, maybe I'm just not, maybe I'm just not going to have any spiritual experiences. Well, hang on. We're not done with a story yet. Okay, so I went to this new client because I needed some hours. So finished with my cleanse, my 35-day fast and cleanse. And then my company said, hey, we've got this guy. It's like Monday and Tuesday evenings from I think it was 10 to 11 p.m. or something. It was something like that. So it's later than I'm used to, but I needed the hours. So I was like, okay. So, and he was close by. He was like 10 minutes away. I'm like, okay, that works for me. So I get there, and he seems like a very nice guy. He's in a wheelchair. His story is that he had a heart attack, and then during the surgery, he got like a staph infection, and then it kind of left like one leg, or his legs kind of paralyzed, but one was recovering, and he was doing like water therapy, and was gaining his strength back. But that was his story, how he got to be in a wheelchair. And he was a bigger guy. He had lost some weight. And so his heart attack must have been due to like weight and that kind of thing, lifestyle. So he had lost some weight, but he's still like a big guy. He really was a big guy. And anyway, that's just part of it. So I would go there, and I would just help him with like laundry, as I remember, just basic stuff, not for and helping him into bed. He would slide into bed with a slide board, and I would just help him get undressed and put on like some cream, if I remember, nothing major. He just needed assistance with a couple things. So anyway, at first he was okay. He started keeping me there later, like a half an hour later, and I would be like, it's already 11:30 at night, and it's dark, and I just want to get home. And I was kind of just irritated by it, because we could talk for an hour while I'm working, why? And I guess this had been a problem with the other women, I think. I don't know about like if he had any men going or not, but just kind of keeping us there. And I thought, okay, this is a little weird, but I thought no big deal. Well, one odd thing, okay, his apartment was very neat and tidy. So I like that. Like everything was in its place. All his medical supplies were very neat and labeled. Everything looked good in the apartment. So nothing weird there. But he had a couple things. He had this big, not a huge shelf, but a pretty decent sized shelf with all these horror movie figurines. And I think one of them at the very top, if I remember, was like the Chainsaw Massacre guy. And I was like, I think Chucky was on there, and I don't know what else was on the shelf, but the whole shelf. And then he proceeds to tell me that he had more of them in storage. And then eventually he told me he does videos, not on YouTube. This was like 5 years ago, but that he does videos and explains them. And I thought, I don't know if he was in his 40s, I think. And I thought, this is a really strange hobby for a 40-year-old. And he was unmarried, never had any kids. I don't know, I just thought, it struck me as odd and a little creepy, But I kind of thought, okay, some people have weird, that in and of itself wasn't like a huge warning. It was just kind of odd and a little on the creepy side. And then there was also this photo of him with a bunch of women around him. And it was kind of like a Renaissance festival, looking, outfits. Anyway, there was something struck me that was odd about that. It was just kind of him with all these women around him. It was just... maybe it wasn't the picture itself, but there was something about the energy of it that I was picking up intuitively. And it was funny because the nurse with the company that went to him also, that saw shelf and noticed the picture. So we both kind of noticed the same thing, and she happened to be a Christian too. Those two things kind of stuck out to her as well. So, and so then everything was kind of okay. But then he starts, as I'm putting him to bed at night, and this was just a couple times a week I was seeing him, and I can't remember how long I went. I don't know if it was like a month and a half, not that very long. And so he starts telling me how that the apartments had been like a nursing home before, and that there were like spirits and stuff like that. And he said that one night he saw this bright light above him, like flash, and now I understand it to be like a portal that opened up. But he said there was a white flash, and he would started seeing, like, for example, like a dark figure standing next to him. He'd wake up and there's a dark figure standing next to him. He said he saw the little girl in the hallway. He he saw what was like the spirit of a nurse went in, I think, and she was holding like an IV stand, rolling that in. One of them went into his bathroom. So he was having like all kinds of weird spiritual experiences, like sounded like very active. And at first I kind of just dismissed it as, well, maybe this place is haunted, This is really odd. And I was interested because I'm very spiritual, so I kind of was interested in what he was saying. So we would discuss that, and he would telling me these stories. And I thought, wow, this is like pretty intense, pretty crazy stuff, So as time went on, I kind of started, there was something about him I didn't like, but it wasn't anything I could pinpoint. He made me uncomfortable, but he really didn't say anything inappropriate. He kept me over, he tried to keep me longer than I needed to be there. But all that really wasn't, I couldn't figure out why I didn't really care for him. There was something more. So it was like September, we're in September at this point, I think, of 2013, and going into October in that time frame. So he had like horror movies on the television when I would get there. And I'm like, oh, you're watching some more scary movies or horror movies? He's like, yeah, every day is like Halloween for me. And I'm like, really? You like it that much? He's like, oh yeah. And I kind of thought that was a little creepy and odd. To say that it's like Halloween every day, it's like, well, there's a lot of, it's occultic. Halloween's occultic. And a lot of occult elements. There are really sacrifices that happen around Halloween. And this is something I've really just come to realize, I think more recently, how serious it is. I would hear about it and think, it just doesn't happen that often. No, I think it happens more often than we realize. And it's more serious. Like Halloween is more serious than we realize. And the Christians celebrate it, and I used to. But that's another topic. But it's like, seriously, you have to really ask God what you need to do regarding Halloween and your kids, letting them dress up and just even celebrating it at all. Kind of think about, what are you celebrating? There's death and it's just it's dark and occultic and witchcraft and Anyway, so, okay, that was another strike. That was another odd thing for him to say. And so as we approached, let's see, I'm trying to think if there's anything else before this point. Oh, so the way I would have to lock up, now he's in bed when I leave. So there's something like a lockbox, and you can get different kinds. Some are attached to the outside of a house. And some of them, this one was it could hang over the doorknob, but you couldn't remove the whole thing, I don't think. You'd have to put in the code, open it up, and there's a key, and you would lock it or unlock it, put the key back into this little lockbox and make sure it was closed again, so the next person who knew the code could take the key out, and unlock it. Especially when the client's in bed, especially someone who's in a wheelchair who can't get out of bed and open the door for you as a home health aide. So this is how we would leave his house, just pull it shut. And it was kind of like lower to the ground because it's a doorknob, and you're kind of looking in the dark. And so I have my back to this courtyard area, and the apartments were kind of in like I don't even know if it was like a whole circle or a semicircle or how it was, they were all oriented, but I would have my back to this courtyard area in between all these apartments to lock the door. And it's at like 11:30 at night, so it's late. So, there's a little bit of a creep factor there anyway. Well, on more than one occasion, what would happen is I would lock his door and I'm kind of crouched down and I feel like there's someone standing behind me. And I look back and there's nobody. But I felt a presence standing right behind me. It's unmistakable when you feel like there's somebody or something behind you. It wasn't like a figment of my imagination or that I was just creeped out or that it was dark. I felt it. You feel something like behind you, right? And eyes on you. So I was like, okay, that's weird. And then at times I would feel like I'm walking from his apartment down this little walkway between a couple of the buildings to the parking lot. And I felt that something is pushing me out of there. It doesn't want me there. Like, it does not want me there. And I just, it's just a weird feeling like something is behind me and wants to push me out of there. And just strange things like that. And then another thing, other aspect of it that I complained to my boss down the road, and I'd never complained to my boss called her directly and ever complained about any client ever. But I did about him eventually. So, it was dark there. I told her it's not well lit enough. It's like too dark. And I just was so dark there. And so anyway, as time went on, he would tell me more things, more spiritual encounters he had and spirits he was seeing, and that I wanted to go, I liked him less and less, even though there was nothing he actually ever said to me that made me not like him. I don't know. It was nothing I could put my finger on why I didn't like him. And the experiences of feeling like something's behind me when I'm locking up happened again. I don't know how many times it happened, but it wasn't the last time. I felt it a couple times. And something wanting to kind of push me down that walkway, get me out of there, that it didn't like me. Then I started getting words in my head, like sexual sadism and pornography. Those are the two things that kept going on like in my mind, and sexual assault, sexual sadism, and pornography were like the three kind of themes running through my head at this time I didn't know regarding what at that time. Like, these are things that were, you just don't think of those things. Then I started sensing that there's going to be a sexual assault there. Like, there was a threat of a sexual assault there. So I started thinking somebody is watching me from one of the other apartments, or watching us girls leave late at night. And it's very predictable when we were leaving and going and leaving. So I actually did contact my boss and warned her, said, like, I feel like there's going to be a sexual assault there. And I had never, at this point, I'd worked there 6 years. I had never called her up and said, I feel like we're in danger there. Something's wrong, and then what happened, now this would have been, okay, so I have, and then I have to add a couple more things before I continue. I started having these weird, like, kind of visions in my mind of being at that shift with him, having someone, like, grab my arm real quick, like I was surprised, like someone just, like, all of a sudden just grabs your arm without you, like, realizing they're gonna do that, they surprise you. Also, like, the concept of, like you can see this in a horror movie, for example, like, somebody's face is, like, just normal, and then all of a sudden something manifests and they change, like, into a monster, or something manifests out of their face, kind of like they all of a sudden become demonic, this kind of theme, this this theme was running through my head, but I didn't know who it pertained to. It was just like this was going to happen, like, you know, someone grabbing me by the arm, like this person's face changing, all of a sudden like becoming demonic, you know, something manifesting out of their face, you know, and contorting into like an evil face from like a normal human face, that kind of thing. And then the third thing was me running out of that shift without finishing the shift. That was like the third thing that, you know, I kept running through my head. So I have all these things going through my head. In the meantime, I have something in my eye. In the meantime, I do not want to go to the shift. Now you have to realize this shift is like an hour, Mondays and Tuesdays for an hour. And the entire, like an hour on my entire day. The whole day I'm dreading going. Like I'm dreading it, but I don't know why. I'm just dreading it. And I remember, my shift, so that year in 2013, Halloween was on a Thursday. So I was supposed to be there Monday and Tuesday for an hour on the week of Halloween. And Halloween would fall on a Thursday that year. But I would be there the week of Halloween. Okay, so at that point, I think that I talked to my boss maybe that Monday and Tuesday both. So that Monday, I sit down in my car and to go to this guy's house to go to the shift, and I just have this sick feeling in my pit in my stomach. Like I just have this feeling, like a sick feeling, not a good feeling, just a dread. Anyway, I go, and I did call my boss after that. Nothing happened that night except the same kind of weird feeling, thoughts running through my head, you know, the sexual sadism, the sexual assault, like all that was like just, my mind was being bombarded with those thoughts. Like, you know, there's something's going on here. There's going to be a sexual assault, something like, you know, something's wrong. Like all these warning alarms are going off in my head, but I have all these pieces and I can't piece them all together. You know, I just don't know. I can't piece them all together, like make sense of it. So, but I just know something's wrong. But I don't know what's wrong exactly. I can't pinpoint it. And I'm trying to think what the next thing was. Okay, so I call my boss and tell her, you know, okay, she had offered that a man come with me on my shift, like another employee. So, and I said, okay, because she said, do you want me to just take you out of the shift? I said, no, I'll go. But I said, I'll take you up on the offer to have another man with me just because to feel safe. And I'd never done this. I've never done this since with a shift. So this was highly, highly unusual for me. Like this is not normal in any way, shape, or form, like in regard to any of the shifts I've done in home health at all. Highly unusual. So I end up getting a phone call from this guy, and he says, hi, I'm from the company, and I didn't know him, and he said, I will go with you to the shift. I said, great. And what was amazing, so he actually calls me, and I kind of kept thinking maybe we should meet outside of that place for safety reasons and meet and kind of drive in together. Even if we're not in the same vehicle, just drive in together, you know? So God intervened, and he ends up calling me, and he's like, I don't really know where this place is. Hey, do you mind if we meet in a parking lot at the gas station and we can drive in together? And I said, sure. And that was absolutely, I believe that was God, like as an extra measure of protection for me. So we drive in there, we meet, very nice guy, drive in there together, and we kind of walk outside for a little bit, and he happens to tell me that he was a funeral director for, I think, his family's company for a few years before working for my company. And I thought this was so interesting. Of all the people, especially in retrospect, of all the people that God would send with me on that particular night is a man who understands spirituality. He didn't really go into it, but he started telling me about like such as some experiences, or hinting towards him writing a book about it, actually writing a book about the experiences of life and death and the afterlife and things like that, because he's a funeral director, so he had encountered things like that. So this is how amazing God is. He sends this man with me to my shift who kind of really is open, very open to spiritual things. So this is significant because that's exactly the person that I needed at the time. So God was taking care of me. So, okay, then I, right before we get to that shift, which was the last shift, that Tuesday, I'd already done my Monday night shift, so we're at the Tuesday night shift, and Wednesday and Thursday being Halloween, so we're 2 days away from Halloween. So, I had asked previously, I said, God, reveal to me what's going on here. I don't understand what's happening. And so God was answering my prayers. So I said, God, reveal to me what's going on. So before I prayed this prayer before we even went there. So I drive up to the parking lot, I get out, and I'm confused because I'm looking at his buildings to the left and there's another building to the right as I'm looking for the parking lot, and then there's a walkway in between them, and then to the left is his, you have to go around and in, and that's where the entry to his apartment is. It's not like one big apartment complex type thing. They're just like, I think they're just like kind of duplexes, I guess, like just small little duplex, two apartments attached to each other, and then a separate building, two apartments attached together, and that kind of thing, separated by like these walkways and that kind of thing, and this courtyard in the middle. So I'm looking up, and it's like really well lit. It's not dark at all. And I had complained to my boss about it being so dark. Well, I'm looking at this and I'm kind of like baffled because on the side of the building, on his building, there's a big bright light. Then I don't know what other lights there were, but then there's another light in the courtyard, a big bright light. And I'm like, I'm standing there kind of baffled and don't understand why it always looks so dark. And then it dawned on me what the darkness that I saw was spiritual darkness, but I saw it with my like earthly eyes. I perceived it with my earthly eyes and my spiritual eyes, but what I was perceiving was spiritual darkness. Then I understood that the lack of lighting wasn't lack of physical lighting. That had always been there. What I was perceiving, what I was seeing is spiritual darkness. And it literally darkened the place to where it looked very dark to me. And there wasn't enough light. I was telling my boss, it's not lit enough. And she probably thought I was crazy. But anyway, so the gentleman, and this is just how God happened to do it. The gentleman goes in with me. So now my client knows there's a man with me, and he gets very angry about it. And we just make up a story and say, he's shadowing me, and this guy, that came with me started taking pictures to try to see if he can pick up on orbs. People do that, and like ghosts and orbs and stuff like that outside. And I think he did capture a couple things. But nothing majorly significant. But he later mentioned to me that when he went around the curve to get to that, he kind of got creeped out, like it was creepy, like, uh-oh, this is creepy. There's something, He kind of felt things too, so it wasn't just me. So anyway, so now my client knows there's a man with me. But he steps outside while we do our routine. But he knows I'm not alone at this point. And he gets very angry and starts saying, I'm going to contact your company. And I kind of was like, oh, I'm sorry, but I wasn't sorry. I just said, oh, well, if you have a problem with that, just let the company know because they sent, him with me. But I kind of was observing him because I was like, why is he that angry? I mean, you could be kind of like, why do you have someone shadowing you, like confused, and you might not be happy about it, but he was really angry. And I thought, this anger, there's something more. My senses said to me that there's something more to his anger. So anyway, but I felt comfortable at that point to proceed with the shift. So, and the gentleman that came with me was outside waiting for me. So we go ahead and we put him in bed and everything. And then he says something to me that just kind of sealed the whole thing for me. He says, one night I was laying, and he says this totally matter-of-factly, just like, I ate pizza for lunch, just like that. He said he lay in bed one night. He said 2 circles opened up on the wall, and there were bars through them, through these circles. He could see the bars, and he said it was a portal to hell. So inside, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he just said that. Oh my gosh, I'm kind of like, I'm not totally freaking out, but I was like, whoa, talk about a revelation, right? So, so I'm like, wow, I'm trying to play it off. Like, you're kidding me. You really saw that, And so I put him to bed and everything, knowing that's going to be my very last shift. I called my boss and I'm like, I'm never going back. I even emailed her and told her, this is what he said to me. Like, he saw a portal to hell. And he wasn't like, oh, I saw 2 circles with bars through them. And like, what do you think that was? He was like, he knew. He was like, I saw 2 circles with these bars through them, and it was a portal to hell. It was totally like matter-of-factly. He didn't question what it was. He knew what it was. So what starts happening then to me is I start having thoughts in my head over like a broken record. So I'm not going to him anymore, and I'm at my other clients who's very spiritual. And I started explaining to her, like, I'm tell her what's going on, and I start having this thought over and over, like broken record. And these were the words that were nonstop in my head. I am legion, for we are many. I am legion, for we are many. I am legion, for we are many. And I'm like, I am legion, for we are many. I'm like, what? And at this point, God's putting the puzzle pieces together, or he's just about to. But I'm like, what is happening here? Like, what? This is like weird, Who thinks that? And it's like non-stop all day. And so I'm like, okay, it's in the Bible. So I get to Mark 5 and about Jesus goes into the cemetery, walks by the cemetery, and this man has no clothes on, and he breaks the chains. He's like totally demon possessed. And Jesus confronts the demons inside him, and their reply was, I am legion, for we are many. That's like the reply, because there's many of them. So they are legion, that's the name. But even though there's individual demons possessing this person who's living in a cemetery, howling, and I think he's got cuts all over his body, if I remember, just like not totally possessed. And then I start having strange, totally demonic stuff not demonic activity in the sense that things are moving around in my house, but presence.